It is Fro Friday. It's fucking Friday. It's bringing the fire Friday. What is up, TFA fam? Hope you're all doing well. Joined by my Dynasty brethren, my Dynasty dudes, my Dynasty bros, my Dynasty guys, you might say. To my left, is it? I don't know what it is on the. Robby, can you stop fucking shit up, please? I didn't ask you to do this. I didn't ask you to do this. Do you feel
Good
better
start.
now?
Good start.
Dude, you just took away all my thunder. I was on a roll and I thought we had a comment and it's just Robby clicking shit.
I was wondering how many
two-year-old.
Dynasty Brochachos, Dynasty Compadres. I just was wondering how many more you're gonna go. I just had
you ended it,
something.
so that was it. I think I got like 3 out. You're sitting over there eating your mac and cheese, clicking on shit, writing in crayon. Anyway, I'm with my Dynasty dudes. Tonight, we're going to be having a little discussion, a little debate, a little chit-chat, little talk, what have you. And, there's opinions flying around. Everyone is torn on this 2021 class. There are some 5'7" guys who are good. There are some 6'3" guys who are good. Slow guys, fast guys, all in between. The opinions are everywhere. So we decided, let's just have a little throwdown. Let's get together. Let's talk it out and see if we can flip each other's opinions, change each other's minds. So the new blood in here, Christian Welch, is joining us, and then on the bottom of your screen, the two handsome fellas who run the TFA Dino show. That is Tom and Robby. And now my work is done. I am handing things off to Robby. Robby, kick us off. We got Walito rocking with us, giving us a yee. That's right, Walito.
Dude, hey-o. Let's go. I'm pretty pumped up. We've got, I thought you were going to give a better intro there for Christian. I mean, we were coming up with nicknames for him. We were throwing them back and forth at each other. We had Cristiano Ronaldo, a.k.a. Willie Welch in the Chocolate Factory, a.k.a. Grape Juice God. And you didn't throw any of that out, Cody. I mean, hype this man up a little bit. He's the newest talent to the TFA fam.
You threw me off my game. It's your fault. So you only have yourself to blame.
That's right. Robby's in the driver's seat for the rest of the evening. That was Cody. I had a little intro for him as well. I mean, he's the postman out there breaking necks and delivering some stimmy checks. And then, we got Tom, obviously, the fantasy proctor. That's kind of the new thing for you, right? Professor Corson.
Yeah, right. I got some. Well, it's not new. It's new that I actually told you guys, I suppose. But yeah, no. So yeah.
Well, thanks
in case
for
you were
letting us
wondering, yeah, I did get somebody to pass, and they got their GED the other day. So there you go. Congratulations. And let's talk about rookies and shit like that. Let's not talk about firing Howie Roseman because we need to. But
where's the mute button for Tom?
Tom out here just changing the world one GED at a time. We appreciate you, man.
That's called the recidivism rate reduction. You're welcome.
And that is enough for you, Dynasty Proctor. You are muted for the next 30 seconds, Tony Reale style. We are going to be talking 2021 rookies.
We have a question from Walito, Robby.
Apparently, nobody gets to host. Everybody just jump in whenever the other person's talking. This is going to make for a great show. Let's just jump right in, Tom. We'll let you take this one.
I did not cry after they traded up. Failed to trade up. I did throw things because I said, okay, let's talk about this real quick. And I'll only spend like 2 minutes on this. But we basically get rid of Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson because they have faith in Jalen Hurts. And then they say, you know what? We don't have faith in the guy that wound up driving Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson essentially out of town. So we're going to try and trade up to 3 because we want Zach Wilson apparently, but he's not going to be there. So instead we're going to trade back. I don't necessarily mind the trade back. I just mind the fact that these idiots wanted to actually trade up and get another quarterback. No more Walito. I'm done.
Well, there we go. For those who have ever listened to the Dino Show, we know that this is a staple where Tom needs his 1 to 2 minutes tirade about the Eagles' latest move. But now that we've got that out of the way, we can move on to the meat of the show, the 2021 rookie conversation that I'm excited to get into because I know we have a lot of different takes on this. And so, boys, let's just start out with the quarterbacks kind of at the helm, right? And I think we all have the standard QB1 of Trevor Lawrence, and all of us, I believe, also have QB2 of Justin Fields. So then the question becomes QB3 for us. And I think, Tom and I are on one side of having Zach Wilson as our QB3, and then Christian and Cody, you guys are more on the Trey Lance bandwagon. Christian, let's have you jump in first. What keeps Trey Lance at QB3 over the likes of Zach Wilson?
Well, for me, these guys are really close in ranking for me. Like I was, saying to you guys when we were chatting before the show started, in my mind, whichever one of these guys was going to Carolina was the guy I was going to bump ahead of the other. And then obviously the San Fran trade happens today, and it looks like we may have multiple awesome landing spots for these guys. But for me, with these guys, unlike Trevor and Fields, who were 5-star prospects, crazy pedigree as recruits, we've known about these guys for years. Lance and Wilson have both kind of popped out of, smaller schools, BYU, North Dakota State. And for me, looking at the two of them, they're both, not guarantees. We're shooting for a ceiling with these guys. And for me, Lance just has the higher ceiling if we're really to compare. If all goes well, total package, everything goes perfectly, who's better? And I think Lance just brings a little more to the table. And looking into the performance, I mean, Zach Wilson, I think you mentioned this in your profile video on him, Robby. That sophomore year, I mean, he regressed. I mean, he had 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions just, a season before this one. So, that's kind of hard to fathom how he had that type of year and then, did what he did this year. But that same year, Trey Lance had 28 touchdowns and no interceptions. So, I mean, he was taking care of the ball like crazy. He's a little bit bigger than Wilson. I think he's, faster than Wilson, So for me, if all goes well, Trey Lance has the higher ceiling. And because I think both of them are not guarantees and I'm shooting for the ceiling play, I'll take the guy that I think has the higher ceiling in Lance.
Cody,
I'll just jump in real quick. That's basically where I fall on it too. Like I like Wilson as well. I recognize that Trey Lance has a floor of underneath the ground, if that's possible, but he also has the highest ceiling as well. Like Christian was saying, if he can put it all together, he's not ready. If I were drafting for a team where I kind of needed to hit a quote unquote, like if I felt like I was ready, if I had a good QB2 and that was going to, help me contend this year, I probably would lean Zach Wilson. But if I'm just shooting for upside, like give me Trey Lance. He has a better arm, better athletic ability. He has like Josh Allen-esque arm talent where it's just like, it looks like it's going to be like a 10-yard pass and that thing flies 60 yards down the field, and he has the running ability and all that. So for me, it's the same thing. Just give me the ceiling, but also recognize that he could be an absolute bust as well.
Yeah. So just real quick, and I'll toss it over to Tom. I want to ask you guys one more thing, and then we'll kind of give our side of this debate. The problem with Lance and the fear that I have is when we saw him go up against, I'd even say a mediocre defense, he struggled, right? We saw it was at Central Arkansas, if I'm remembering correctly. And that was kind of the one game that we saw his most recent after he just goes off in what would be the 2019 season. And that's why we have him up where we have him. He just was electric. He can run better than I think anybody else in this class. And that's where you see that ceiling, that Lamar Jackson type of, hey, he can get 1,000 on the ground and he can also throw, 25, 30 touchdowns. And that's why I think you guys talk about that ceiling. But again, I got to just hit on that floor real quick. When we see NDSU and their schedule, not great, but you play who you play, and he dominated who he played until he didn't, right? Until they kind of stepped up that competition a little bit. And then the one game we saw left a bad taste in our mouth. I'm just kind of worried about that. You guys got anything on that before I toss it to Tom?
Well, for me, that was the one game in 2020 you're referring to, correct? Yeah, so kind of an odd year. I mean, that's the COVID year. It's one game. And I remember we were talking about that game for months before it happened. Like, man, is this a good decision that he's doing this? He's putting himself on the big stage for no reason. I don't know if he got in his own head, did all the talk going into that or what. But, obviously that was not his best showing. But for me, I'm running it off as an anomaly. Like I said, I'm not picking him because I feel he's safe or because his profile is flawless. I'm picking him because he has the best ceiling in the class. Like I said, if this guy hits, I mean, we are talking, the absolute 1-1 fantasy weapon if this guy actually delivers on what he can. So for me, it's not a factor because I realize that he's the riskiest of the four, and I'm taking him completely because of what the ceiling could be. And on Zach Wilson too, I know he ended up having a good showing in that fourth quarter against Coastal Carolina, but they also lost that game that had playoff implications to them on a big stage. So Wilson crumbled a little bit in the limelight as well, in my opinion. BYU should have absolutely came away with that win.
The Chanticleers are a good team, okay? Chanticleers were ranked almost the entire season after taking out the Kansas Jayhawks at home, or on the road, I should say. So you watch it, that this Chanticleer slander will not be had. Tom, tell them why they're wrong, and then we will get to some of these questions. Kenny will be right with you.
So ever since Josh Allen came along, everybody wants to say, oh, Josh Allen, you know what I mean? You can fix accuracy. That is not the normal thing. We just saw it recently, so I feel like it's recency bias. You watch Trey Lance film, and he just throws high a lot of the time. He didn't even complete 67% of his passes the year he had, in 2019, his best year where he broke out. He didn't have any interceptions, but he was missing a lot, especially when you had open wide receivers. So that's what's concerning with me. Love his feet. I don't necessarily like how he reads So that gives me pause with him. I like those things about Zach Wilson. So, and we're talking about the arm strength and everything like that. Zach Wilson doesn't exactly have a trash arm. He's got a plus arm. So that to me, and he's got better accuracy, much better accuracy. So Zach Wilson can make any throw on the field. So that's where I'm going with him. I think Zach Wilson is a much safer prospect, as I think you do as well. If you're going for ceiling, that's perfectly fine. But let's not just say that Zach Wilson's ceiling is to be a middling quarterback like Andy Dalton. He's got top 10 potential pretty easily there. It's funny because we're talking about this pre-draft and post-draft. We're all going to, Trey Lance is obviously going to be the better player because, Zach Wilson got taken by the Jets and blah, 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 blah. So it could flip afterwards. But at the same time, the Jets have a lot of picks. They're going to try and put playmakers around him. And I don't necessarily think that he's going to fail if he goes to New York. And Trey Lance, he's raw. He needs to sit. If somebody throws him in right away, or if he's in the wrong offensive system that's not going to utilize him correctly, then he's going to fail. I think Zach Wilson he can go to any landing spot and be successful, whereas Trey Lance is a little bit trickier in that regard.
Tom, I love that last point that you just said, because that's why I have Lance a little bit lower, is just we talk about a raw prospect. I think he might be a guy in Dynasty leagues where you can get him cheaper in 2022. Because either he starts right away and struggles and you're like, I'm not sure if he's got it. You have some questions with him, or he just sits, half the season, 3/4 of the season or something. And you're not, you know what I mean? Like, I think Zach Wilson's a guy that's probably going to go in there and start right away. Whereas I don't have that same for sure with Trey Lance. So accuracy you hit on, I won't repeat all of Tom's things, but that's kind of why he is below Zach Wilson for me right now. Let's bring in. Go ahead.
One other thing, though, for your QB3 and QB4 to be this good this year is something we're going to look back next year and say, what happened? Because the class isn't going to be nearly as strong as it is this year.
So we have a Dynasty startup question from Kenny. He's asking, he just acquired the 105 and 1006 and he gave up the 308, 403, and a 2022 second. Christian, do you have any thoughts on this move? This is a half PPR single QB.
I mean, I think that's a win to get the 1-5. I mean, you're not giving up another pick until 2+ rounds later. So, I mean, that's a win on the 1-5 side for me.
Yeah, and that 2022 rookie class isn't going to be as strong as this class, so I like giving up the second as well. So if you use your first 3 picks correctly, then you're going to be a contender, and that 2022 second is going to be later on anyway.
Cody, agree?
Yeah, I agree. I'm also, like, truth be told, I'm terrible with startup trades. Like, I never have any idea on how to value, moving up and moving down in startups. So I'm probably not the best one to ask. I would be curious once this plays out. Kenny, you'll have to drop a comment and let us know what those picks ended up being. But I mean, to go up to the 105, like Tom said, that doesn't seem like a lot. So I'm inclined to say that is a dub for you, Kenny, but take that with a grain of salt coming from me.
And that is a sweep. I like that as well.
Real quick before we move on from Wilson and Lance, I think Cody and
I saw a brewing. Let's go.
He's got
I think
one
we
more.
may be a little guilty of, kind of what Tom said, kind of, presuming the landing spots. It seems like Wilson's a Jet, and we're thinking Lance is a Niner or a Panther. And, I think we all agree those are better landing spots. So my question to you guys is, if Lance gets the Niners landing spot, do you move him ahead of Zach Wilson?
I don't think there's a chance in hell that Lance goes before Fields.
Yeah, I don't either. In your scenario, yeah, maybe. I can still see them starting Garoppolo for half those games, maybe the whole season. I don't know. I think it's one of those situations, unless you get a punctured lung by an athletic trainer, he's probably riding the bench for a little bit. It might. I do like any quarterback kind of going in that system because all these guys are mobile. All these guys can do these crossing routes, these play action pre-snap motion that Shanahan likes to run. So honestly, like the fit for most of these quarterbacks. So that would be a little bit more intriguing, Christian. If whoever goes to the 49ers, I'll like that a little bit more.
As long as your pre-draft rankings are Trevor Lawrence at 1 and Mac Jones at 5, I really don't care who's at 2 through 4.
Yeah, pretty much.
And all 4 of us have Fields too, correct?
Yeah.
So 3-4 is really the debate,
And this is the correct take here from Caliplin. Niners QB is QB2 in this class. That is how I feel as well.
Honestly, so here's your take on that. Say Lance goes at 3, and then
Boner.
Justin Fields goes to Atlanta at 4. I'm going Justin Fields.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Falcons fan, so I would go Justin Fields there. But if y'all's concern is that they're not going to play year one, I mean, Matt Ryan's the Falcons quarterback this year, no doubt.
Right.
So then we'd be looking at a similar situation. How much are you guys going to attack the year of missed playing time?
I don't, because that means if they're sitting, so for the most part, you don't see a lot of rookie QBs sit very long, but when they do, I think they get a lot out of it, especially like last year, what Justin Herbert did in a COVID shortened season, or not shortened, but the off season and everything is unreal. And we're going to have similar things probably this year. So coming in and starting as a rookie isn't the easiest thing at quarterback to start with. And now you have everything in place from the NFL. So I don't think sitting is necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're talking Dynasty. So if you're talking Dynasty and you're drafting this high for these guys anyway, you probably need a quarterback, or it's the value anyway.
One thing I've noticed this year more so than last year is I'm seeing these 4 quarterbacks, 1, 2, 3, 4 in Superflex mocks. Last year, Justin Herbert was going in the second round in some of these leagues, and I think he made some people pay for that. And I think as a community, we're seeing the quarterbacks get bumped up quite a bit because people missed so badly on Herbert last year.
Yeah, I think I had him. I think a lot of people had him at 6-ish. I know I had him at 6. I think Robby had him right around there too.
In my home league, he went at the 2-1, and I was just absolutely blown away by it.
Bonkers. It's a good home league to stay in. If you have any openings in there, let me know.
Oh man, this one's been going for 10 years plus. So this is fine.
One of those, I'll move to Tennessee or wherever the fuck just to get in there if it's high stakes.
Real quick on this one before we pivot to quarterback, just quick answers. Christian, start with you. Would you reach at tight end at 203 since Kenny won't have a pick again until round 5?
I am more willing to reach on George Kittle than most in startups. I think that advantage of having a Kelsey or a Kittle, if they're healthy all year, is just as good as having one of the top 5 running backs. So for me, I'm willing to do it if it's Kittle, depending on who's there. We have a little bit more depth at running back than we usually do as far as like young running backs that you'd feel comfortable taking in the first round. So, it's really dependent there, but I'm going to be more willing to take Kittle early in a startup than most people, I would say. So I would.
Robby, you reaching on a tight end at 203?
No, I don't think so. That's not even where. Okay, that's kind of where Kittle's going. But I mean, outside of that, I think I just prefer to wait, especially if you're missing your third and fourth, you're going to be hurting at one of your other positions. And I think you can still nab, a Hawkinson, Fant, even a sneaky kind of Irv Smith or something like that a little bit farther down, Logan Thomas. I think there's other tight ends. They don't give you that same upside that Christian's talking about, and I do understand that. But I just think you're going to be hurting if you give up 2 of those middle rounds and then you don't fill that with another running back or wide receiver. You might have some struggles.
Agree. That's too rich for my blood. I mean, you're talking about. I mean, Miles Sanders is underneath of him right now with ADP, but Ridley, Hopkins, Gibson, CD Lamb, Chubb are all, in that range. Diggs, Henry. I mean, you might have Akers or AJ Brown fall. Who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't take him over Gibson or AJ Brown, to be clear.
Yeah. So the point is, there's a ton of good position players there. I generally wait on tight end anyway, and in 8, 9, I might go back to back tight end, upside guys there, second year guys getting ready to break out. That's generally my strategy. Yeah. So no.
All right, let's continue real quick and just talk. Is there any quarterback outside of the top 5? Cody, you kind of hit on Mac Jones being that QB5. Is there anybody else that you guys are interested in a late dart throw in your rookie drafts? We saw Dak, a 4th rounder, obviously grow into the quarterback he is now. We've seen Gardner Minshew have some success. There are in super flex leagues, there are late round quarterbacks that are worth taking some stabs on. Any names out there, Christian, that you're interested in?
Not for me. Last year, I rostered Jake Fromm way too many places as one of these guys, and it was really just a wasted roster space. Kyle Trask and Kellen Mond could be interesting in the right places. Maybe I take a late round flyer on one of them if they land in a place that has just a really bad quarterback situation. But pre-draft, I'm not a fan of either of them. So not for me this year. I'm going to take another body at running back before I'll put Jake Fromm on my roster again.
There's so many high upside home run swing receivers specifically that you can get in the 4th round that I probably won't. Maybe if you're in in an auction league where you can just snag some of those guys for cheap, $1, $2, $8, whatever, maybe that. But in your standard, typical 4-round rookie, I'd probably rather take a swing on some of these guys who aren't even being drafted over somebody like Mond or Trask or anybody like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really even like Kyle Trask, so that's the QB6. So that's kind of my answer there, and I can't even give you a good answer on that until I see landing spots. If I see landing spots, then maybe I'll bump somebody up. But pre-draft, I see nobody past those top 5 I'd be investing in.
More like Kyle Trash. Am I right?
Oh, that's a good one, dude.
Am I right?
Approve of any Florida slander you guys want. We can trash Kadarius Toney too. We can have a good old time trashing the Gators here.
Just real quick, I do want to advocate a little bit for Kellen Mond. He was a highly recruited guy coming out, and he's had his struggles, but I think he's got a lot of starts under his belt, and I can see him going in the 4th round, kind of similar. I brought up Dak because I see a lot of similarities from Dak coming out of Mississippi State. So that's a guy I might be intrigued on. If we're talking 4th round in a super flex, it just takes an injury, and then he's the backup, and you got some instant value there. So that's one guy I will bring up. But let's go to some running backs here. We have all of us have Najee Harris as our running back 1, the beast that he is. I think that is pretty much consensus. But then it gets a little tricky, especially with TFA's own Kevin Steele pounding the table for Javonte every single day. I think he's maybe converted Cody and myself to Javonte at RB2. And then we have Christian and Tom with Travis Etienne at running back 2 on their side. Tom, let's have you start off the conversation here. Why do you have Etienne over Javonte?
So I've had Javonte at RB2 until I think this week when I switched it up to Etienne. They're so close. It's not much of a difference to me. But I think Etienne's going to get drafted first. And I think he could go late first. And you look at some of the landing spots back there, and I think they might be a little bit better than Javante's landing spot. So again, the talents are so close that it's not a huge difference for me, like at all right now. So it's going to come down to landing spot. At the end of the day, I like explosiveness more than, someone just blowing somebody else up, which is Javante's just, he's such a punishing runner. But that leads to injuries more often, whereas Etienne is explosive and you're going to get those long plays from him. So that's my tiebreaker there with those two. But I like both of them a lot. I expect them to go in a non-Superflex league. I expect them, they're going to all be in the top 5, in my opinion.
Really? Even with all the wide receivers in this class?
Yeah, because if you look at it, people are running back poor, even though there's a million of them. So people want to hoard them. So they're going to wind up drafting Etienne and Javante earlier. So at worst, what, top 7, top 6? Yeah,
that's probably a little bit more. I mean, outside of Kev drafting, Javante at 4 in our super flex every single time, which is
over Najee,
not consensus. I think Javante, you see on DLF, he's down there at 11, maybe 10 on DLF's ADP for super flex. So let's bump that up. We take out 4 quarterbacks. Yeah, he's right there at probably 5 or 6. So you're not far off.
No, it's again, people get on the clock and they say they need a running back. And they're going to reach a little bit over wide receiver. And the other thing is, if you're drafting earlier, so if you're in a 12-team league and you have the option to take a running back in the top 4 or 5, you're going to do so because guess what's coming around to you in the second? Wide receivers. So that decision is really easy for me. So in one league, I own the 101 and I own the 105. Part of me was like debating Chase over Najee, and then no. But it's no contest now because of the wide receivers that are going to be there at 105. So if you can get both, if you can have any strategy to get both, you need to look at the tiers that are going to be picked the next time when you're on the clock. So make sure you do that so you can fill your roster out a little bit better.
Christian, what do you got?
Well, for me, I mean, Etienne has been the top back in this class since he decided to, forego the draft last year and come into this class. And I think we're just getting prospect fatigue on him. I mean, this guy was, the tops for the longest, and now we're talking, Javante Williams. For me, the Najee Harris ascent is more justified. He was by far the top back coming out of high school. I mean, he has the prospect pedigree. He did it at Alabama. He really, stepped up his performance last year. I'm somebody that puts a lot more weight, I guess, on the prospect pedigree, and the breakout age and the dominator and things like that, more so than some of you guys that are just, pretty much film. And for me, I mean, Etienne has the prospect pedigree. I mean, he was the best player on Clemson, which is a top 2-3 team in the country for multiple years. I mean, this guy had rushed for 1,600 yards twice before Javante Williams even rushed for 1,000 once. And the only knock we had on Etienne, at Clemson was this guy can't catch passes. He even said he doesn't like doing it. He's afraid of it. And what'd he do? He had 60 targets last year, bumped his target share up to 12% plus. So, I mean, the one thing this guy couldn't do, he went and learned how to do well. And now we're dropping him down boards, and nothing against Javante Williams. He's awesome. But like Tom said, you'll see Javante Williams doing some amazing things on film and then getting caught from behind. I mean, he lacks the home run ability that Etienne has. And I love Javante Williams. I'd love to see my Falcons draft him, in the second round. But for me, Etienne is better. And we're overcomplicating it and just having prospect fatigue with him because we've been talking about him for so long. Like I said, 3 years ago, he rushed for 1,600 yards, on a national championship Clemson team. So we're overcomplicating it and trying to drop Travis Etienne for no justified reason, in my opinion. He improved on the one thing we thought he needed to improve on. And, now he's running back 3 apparently. So that's where I'm at with him.
Yeah.
You guys are stupid and the show's over.
No, it's not even a Etienne has fallen or anything like that, because I think, like you said, he and Najee both improved their stock. If they had come out in the 2020 class, they would have been running backs 5 and 6 most likely. And so I think, it was smart of them to go back. They both improved on a lot of things. I just think what Javante did was just really, really impressive. And I just think I don't want to say a more complete back because they both are complete, and we liked Etienne's weigh in and whatnot. So I think he's a complete back as well. But If you want to talk about a guy that I think can fit in any scheme, it really doesn't matter what it is. Javonte can absolutely catch passes out of the backfield. That's something that's super underrated about his game. We talk about just being bully ball. He is a punisher when he runs the football. Guess what? He's actually a really, really good pass catcher as well. And I know that Etienne will probably have more targets at an NFL level for an NFL team, but I just think I like Javonte's ability to go wherever. But this is definitely a spot where I can say I might flip them depending on landing spot. They are very close for me. Cody, what do you got?
Yeah, I think what you touched on is the biggest thing for me, Robbie, is just the fact that I think that Javonte can excel in any scheme where I think Etienne, not that he's scheme dependent, but I think he would be better in certain schemes than others. If we're talking gap versus zone blocking and that sort of thing. And it's not necessarily anything that, Etienne did wrong or anything like that. I just, the prototypical size with Harris and Javonte, give me that. And like the 215 weigh-in, like here's a little gripe I have with all of these weigh-ins. What are the chances that he actually plays at 215? Because then he played like around that 200 mark for the majority of his time at Clemson. And he did fine. He excelled. You know what I mean? Like he could easily go out and he dropped that weight a week later. And now he's sitting at like 208. Like we'll never know that. But now going forward, we're going to say, hey, he's 215. He's 215. So it's not necessarily a knock against Etienne. I think he can do it all as well. But I think the only thing that Etienne has over Javonte is that explosiveness and the long speed. I think Javonte he's above average in terms of his athleticism. He doesn't have that long speed, but he has enough burst. And we see mediocre athletic running backs be able to excel all the time. So like that athleticism at running back isn't as important as it might be at, wide receiver or tight end.
Yeah, and if we're talking about just explosiveness, Najee isn't explosive whatsoever. He's just going to grind you to death and wind up with like 120 to 130 yards. He's not going to wind up popping a 50-yard runoff just because that's not Najee either. So do you guys have comps for these guys, or who do you see? No? So Etienne, when I see him, I get shades of Jamal Charles there. Not all the time, but he pops like that. And Javonte, I get shades of Marshawn Lynch with him. So it's like you're not really like, oh no, I can't. They're both horrible, but yeah. So that's what I see. So in their prime, I'd rather have Jamal Charles than Marshawn Lynch there. But yeah, that's my take on that one.
I'm just awful at comps, so I will have no comps for anybody. So don't if you're gonna ask anyone, just completely skip me. Act as if I'm not even here.
So it's the same thing with asking you for like hair advice or something.
Wow.
Look at that receding hairline, dog. If I wanted to talk hair, I wouldn't ask you either. Look at that.
Why?
Dude,
I don't have a receding hairline. Look at that. It's all there. I just keep it short.
Curls for the girls, baby.
Look at that. You look amazing. I'm sorry I even brought it up.
It's Fro.
No,
yeah, that's right. Jealousy is not a good look on you. I'll say that.
It's the only look on me, and it is. My skin is glowing. Right, Robby?
Absolutely. A reference to the TFA pod, episode 25. Definitely take a little listen to that intro, a little special. Okay, so guys, I think we can continue this Cody versus Tom debate. I think that we have the top three, right? We have Najee, then we have whoever you want as your running back two, Etienne or Javonte. But after the big three, if you will, who's that number four, and maybe what's the gap between them? Because I know some people have their fourth guy a little bit closer to this top three, and some people have it farther away. So let's go to Christian first. You and Tom both have Kenneth Gainwell at 4. I and Cody have Michael Carter at number 4. What do you like about Gainwell, and how close is he to these top three?
He's not close to the top three at all. The gap is massive. The top three are awesome, and it's just like abyss until you get to Kenneth Gainwell. And for me, the guy that you guys have there, Michael Carter, I have very close to Gainwell. For me, the reason I put Gainwell ahead is just the one dominant trait that he's a former wide receiver. The receiving ability on this guy, I feel, is going to play in the league. even if he doesn't succeed as a, starting running back, I feel that at worst he's going to have a James White, Naheem Hines type role to where he's going to be on the field because he's such a strong pass catcher. So even though he's, what I would look at, I feel like he's kind of a boom or bust player. I feel like there's a floor in there as well, just because of his receiving ability. So, but I could be swayed to Carter, but for me, I feel Gainwell has a better chance to stay in the league because he's an excellent receiver.
So it's funny when you did that. I actually had to look back and see who you were talking about because Michael Carter does the same thing. For me, it's just size. It's prototypical size. That's about it. I think they're both landing spots are probably going to flip flop for me if it Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words, but I actually just flipped Gainwell over Michael Carter. So that's how close those guys are as well. They're close. That's going to come down to landing spot for me. They both do a lot of the same things very well.
It would not surprise me if Christian is right on this. I do think the one thing that Gainwell definitely has over Carter is that athleticism. I could see him, at worst, like Christian was saying, as a pass receiving back who kind of just hangs around the NFL. For me, the reason why I have Carter at 4 is like I legitimately think if we look at just the intricacies of the running back position, we can put Carter at the top of this class. Like it is truly a shame that he has the size that he has, because there's nothing he's not going to show up at the UNC Pro Day and all of a sudden be 5'11", 220. Like it's just not going to happen, and it's a shame because he literally has everything you could want in a running back as far as patience, vision, burst, decisiveness. He's a good pass catcher. He can run inside, run outside. He literally has all of it. But at what was he at the Senior Bowl? Like 5'8", 202, 5'7", 202, something like that.
So DLF has him at 5'7", 202, and that's essentially what Darren Sproles was. So let's think about that.
Yeah, it sucks.
That's the reason why I have Gainwell ranked higher. Yeah. I watched the film and they're like almost dead even for me. So I'll take the prototypical size over that.
What do you mean the prototypical size? He's 201 pounds.
I know, I got you. And then you start thinking about it, okay, 5'7", 202 is pretty damn stout. But again, they're like dead ass even for me. Don't come at me.
There's no effing way Darren Sproles was 200 pounds. I don't care whatever website you look that up from. That is a bunch of malarkey.
Have you seen Tom's messages? He probably fucking weighed in with Darren Sproles at one time. He probably challenged him to a weigh-in. So that's probably how he knows.
Have you seen him? Like seen his face and his head and his neck?
Hey, Ashton, if you're still listening, I need you to weigh in on this. Give us a little, is Michael Carter anyway comparable in size to Darren Sproles? Or give us your take on Gainwell versus Michael Carter.
It's not Donnell Pumphrey I'm talking about. I'm talking about Darren Sproles.
and one thing I want to throw in here, too, it could be a perception deal, too, because obviously we love Williams. Michael Carter has always split time with him. We've seen Kenneth Gainwell have a 2,000-yard season at Memphis, so we've seen him absolutely be the guy, go over that 2,000-yard mark when you combine his receiving and his rushing. So, maybe we're jaded a little bit by seeing that tremendous season. But, for me, it just feels that Gainwell's ceiling is higher.
I might have missed it. Did we go over Gainwell's measures? Because if I remember right, he was right at 200 or 195.
Yeah, that's why I said, Tom, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, prototypical size.
So his BMI, hold on.
Prototypical.
Tom, his BMI is even worse than a 5'8", 202 guy who can easily pack on another 5 to 10 pounds. We've seen a lot of
5'8", 202.
There you go. You win with Tom when he flips to your mom jokes. So absolutely, I'm not going to listen to this size slander when we're talking Kenneth Gainwell versus Michael Carter. I just think Michael Carter can do it all for you. This is not I dislike Kenneth Gainwell. I just definitely see him maybe being more shoved into that passing downs type of role instead of getting the full workload. A lot of this will come down to draft capital. Anybody else have anything to say on this?
I just think that only 3 guys in this class are going to get the full workload, and that's the 3 that we discussed. So with these guys, in my opinion, going to be role players. Gainwell's the stronger receiver and more guaranteed to get a role playing position. So that's why I went Gainwell.
So it's funny because we always think that, and then James Robinson happens every year.
Does it happen every year? I feel like that was a really unique
there's
situation.
like a later round guy. Now, listen, they usually fizzle out a lot quicker, but it seems like we always have a guy like 5th round or later where you're like, how did we miss this guy?
Perfect freaking segue, Tom. We are going to now talk about someone in this 5 to 8 range, maybe late day 2, day 3 guys. So how about Christian? You start. Give us between these 4 guys, Jefferson, Kylan Hill, Trey Sermon, Chuba. Give us a guy that you're going to stand for and plug him why he could be that James Robinson or kind of this day 3 guy that can give you some value.
Out of that group, for me, it's definitely Jamar Jefferson. We're talking a 35% college dominator. Been doing it since his freshman year. I mean, his year 18 season, he rushed for 1,380 yards and 12 touchdowns, 5'10", 217. So I like the size on this guy. I love the analytical profile. I love the production on the field. If anybody in that 5 to 10 range is going to step up and find themselves a job, for me, it's Jamar Jefferson.
Cody.
My guy's going to be Kylan Hill. I like Jamar Jefferson. To me, it's between those 2 for sure. I lean Kylan Hill just slightly. Like, hopefully these guys get some decent draft capital and some solid landing spots, because I could see both of these guys being able to lead a running back room. But for me, for Kylan Hill, like I said, they're both super close. But I will give him the SEC edge over the Pac-12 and just what he's been able to do. And I know Jamar Jefferson had some injuries. He had his freshman year, I think he had 25 catches, and after that, I don't know if he eclipsed double digits. And then we saw Kylan Hill and that Mike Leach offense in 3 games had more catches than he had in any other season for in his college career. So I slightly lean Kylan Hill. I just like his overall game slightly more than Jamar Jefferson, but they're both like in that same tier for me.
Tom, who do you got?
Kylan Hill, pretty much for everything that Coderino said. So, yeah, I don't really have a lot. I like Kylan Hill a lot. I mean, it's funny that we do this pre-draft, because if Pittsburgh, for example, skips out on one of the top 3, the next thing you know, one of these guys goes to Pittsburgh, and they're obviously going to, leap over everybody else. So it'll be fun.
Love the answers here that we're getting from Kenny. Let's do the full gamut here. How big is James Robinson? 5'9", 220, just like Kenny's mom.
I bet she cooks real good.
Right in, Kenny. Welcome.
She's a great cook, man.
I'll take Trey Sermon. I know we haven't talked about Chuba yet, and we'll see if anyone wants to defend his honor. But Trey Sermon's a guy that I think we saw pop off at the end of this year. A guy that did really well in the work he got as a freshman and his sophomore year, which was his best year. A little bit of struggle, so people are down on him. He didn't kind of put it together his entire collegiate career, but what he did against Northwestern, what he did against Michigan State, and then Clemson, I just think that shows like the ceiling. And I do think that helps his draft capital. I've been seeing him mocked a lot in the top 100, early 4th. And I've seen like Jamar Jefferson all over the place. Sometimes Jamar's like up in the 3rd, and then he's sometimes back in the 6th. So like we've all said, I think draft capital will have to do a lot with how I switch these up. But I do like the one cut ability that Trey Sermon's able to do. He does get good burst and good acceleration. So he is a guy that I enjoy watching. Anybody want to go real quick before we move on?
I mean, if we have to say one good thing about Chuba Hubbard, I mean, if he can get one of those just, one cut and go systems, I mean, he does have some home run speed, but he's just not great at much else.
So which system he goes to, do you move him up? Arizona?
I mean, I'm not in on Chuba really on anything, but Arizona would be good. Maybe the new jet system, with the Shanahan guys potentially. I don't know. I won't be owning Chuba in any leagues that I have.
So we're talking landing spot. I'm going to give these two guys landing spots for you. I'm going to go backwards. ETN goes to Arizona. Javonte goes to Pittsburgh.
Who the Falcons getting? Najee?
Sure.
The Falcons are drafting one of the top 3 running backs.
Mike Davis.
Mike Davis is not going to start. Mike Davis is there to be the complimentary
Miami
piece.
gets Najee. Miami gets Najee, okay?
So what are the Falcons doing at running back? We're not rolling out Mike Davis
holding their
Brian
dicks in their
Hill.
hands.
No.
Mike Davis.
We are getting one of the top 3 backs in the second round.
Just play the game.
Tom, you missed the train for Najee, ETN, and Javonte talk. We are definitely.
Yeah, I thought he was going back to like Kylan Hill, and he takes it all. Hey, actually, let's go back. What if Trey Lance goes to the Giants?
I did not know hosting tonight was going to be like herding cats. We're going to move on to kind of these lower guys just quickly. Do you guys have anybody that's going outside like the top 10 or 10 or lower that you guys just want to shout out for some of the listeners here?
No.
When you asked me for 10, I was so angry I had to go past 9. Like it was like pulling teeth to even put a 10th name down. So I have no interest in any running back past 9 in this class.
Tom, are you about the same?
Shut up, Cody. That's my answer.
I will quickly throw out Demetric Felton. He's kind of some people have him listed as a wide receiver, but he's a guy that can catch a lot of passes. I just think we're talking PPR. He's a good guy to throw out in the later rounds. But let's move to the juiciness of this 2021 class, the wide receiver class.
Real quick,
yeah.
Just to get to Ashton's question, who would you take at QB if you're the Jets? Or would you, and which one?
If Lawrence isn't there, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
For me, it's Justin Fields. I mean, Justin Fields is my QB2 pre-draft. I don't think that's who they're going to take, but without landing spots, I have Fields as the second best QB.
I agree, Justin, but I think Zach Wilson can go there and succeed based on the system that we've seen LaFleur run. Is it Mike LaFleur? No, it's the other one. Mike LaFleur, right? So the system we've seen him, contribute to in San Francisco and Atlanta with Shanahan. So I think either one of them can succeed. So I really don't know. That's a tough one. I'd trade back, to tell you the truth, to 3. How's that? And let San Francisco pick whoever the hell they want.
Cody.
Yeah, I think if they're taking a QB, like we talked about the fact that we're talking about these guys being so close 1 through 4, and then that gap. I mean, for me anyway, I don't want to speak for you 3, but there's definitely a gap between 4 and Mac Jones at 5. But I mean, I think if you're a Jets fan, I would be happy with honestly any quarterback that they took there too. I think I do like the thought of Zach Wilson in that system. If we're like picking perfect places, like give me Zach Wilson there, give me Fields in Carolina, and give me Trey Lance in San Francisco, and let's just party. Let's party.
I'm such the minority here, but I'd like to see them keep Sam Darnold. I do not think that's really on the table for them anymore. I think they are sounding a lot like the Arizona Cardinals, saying Josh Rosen is our man. Sam Darnold is our guy. It seems like that is going to be flipped on draft day. But yeah, if they're going somebody, I would say Fields is the guy.
Let me ask you this, Robbie. Sam Darnold's only 23. If
Right.
he was in this draft class, where would you take him?
If he had come out, or we're saying what I've seen so far in the NFL, or
what you've seen so far in the NFL, obviously we know it's been a challenging situation there, but you got 23 Sam Darnold as a rookie in this draft class with the other 4. Where are you taking him?
I'd probably have him really close to Fields. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'd have him behind Fields, probably QB3. That's not a bad point.
But you have
you
to
also
factor
have
in,
you
have to factor in his trade value.
Oh, I was going to say NFL experience that he's had. I don't think there's as much of a learning curve that he has to go through that a rookie would have to go through. But then again, the Jets aren't trying to win this year, probably. But yeah, no, Christian, I like that point. I'd probably have him QB3. Anyone else? No, good. Great. Wonderful. Let's go to some Jalen Waddle discussion. We have all of us, Jamar Chase, wide receiver 1, and then we have a little bit of a split. The numbers don't look like it, but top 2 versus outside top 3 for wide receivers for Jalen Waddle, I think is a little chasm here. Tom, you have him as wide receiver 1. I have him as wide receiver 2, so we're in the top 2. And then outside the top 3, Christian, I think you had him 4, and Cody, you had him 5, if I remember correctly. Let's go with Cody. I believe you were lowest on him. Why do you have him? Why do you hate him? Like, what's your deal with Waddle, man?
Because Tom really likes him.
All right, Kev.
So, no, it's he again. Same thing with ETN. Like, Jalen Waddle did nothing wrong. I just love this draft class, and I just prefer those other guys. Like that's really. I already put that up there, Robby. Calm down. Everyone already saw that.
Let's just leave it up. Let's just leave it up. Why take it down? I don't understand why it needed to be taken down. So I put it back up. Continue.
This, guys, listen. Kenny only has one thumb, so hit us with that thumbs up if you can. He can't give us that thumbs up twice. And if you're rocking with us for the first time and you're not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button as well. But for me, like I said, it just like it's nothing against Waddle.
I'm offended.
Well, good thing I don't care, and that's why I did it. So, like I said, it's just I just like those other guys. Just slightly better. The way that I have it is, I have Chase and Bateman in tier 1. I have Devonta by himself in tier 2, and then Moore and Waddle in tier 3 is kind of how I have that split.
Do you have Rondale above Waddle?
Numerically, sure, but like they're like in the same grouping for. Thank God. I've been
Still
waiting.
have my earpiece in.
Christian, keep us together here. Who do you got, or why do you have Waddle outside the top 2 there?
I love Waddle, but for me, anyone that doesn't have Jamar Chase number 1 I really need some explanation on how you got there, because to me it doesn't make sense that you can possibly get to that solution, I guess. It's just insane. When you look at what he did, being younger than Justin Jefferson on the same team, it's just insane. It's absolutely nuts. Jamar Chase is 1 in his own tier. For me, I've tried to get my boy Rashad Bateman, who I look at as kind of like my guy in this class, to number 2. But Devontae Smith, despite the weight, it's just beautiful. The route running, the footwork, the beautiful challenging catches this guy makes. He just plays the wide receiver position perfectly. And for me, I feel like I would normally, hit him for 170, but maybe this is Kevin Durant. Maybe this is the guy that just looks like a beanpole, and the game is just played perfectly. So I'm not gonna overthink Devontae Smith's weight. I've watched it, and it's perfect. So, I think the little things he does correctly is just putting him at number 2. Like I said, I'm a massive Bateman guy. I think Bateman's the next coming of Allen Robinson, and I'm just like obsessed with his profile. I think he's gonna, go higher in the NFL draft than I've seen mocks go. I think he goes in the teens to low 20s. So for me, Waddle just falls there because I love the 3 guys above him so much. Waddle's obviously as explosive as they come, is a big play waiting to happen, but I'm just not as obsessed with him as I am the other 3. So it's nothing that he's done. I think he goes, right there between 10 and 15 in the NFL draft. So he'll have the capital. He had the prospect pedigree. He had the on-field production at Alabama. He checks every box for me as well. I just like the other 3 guys better.
Before we move on,
Come on, Tom. Let's go.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Waddle had
I forgot
71
Tom
more yards at the time that he got hurt than Devonta Smith. And at that time, Devonta had a 38.2% target share, and Waddle had a 23.5%. Waddle was averaging 22.3% or 22.3 yards per reception in Alabama in the SEC. I don't understand how that's.
Jamar Chase was that much better than Justin Jefferson, and you don't think he's the
I
number
understand
one receiver
that,
in
and
this
I
class.
love Jamar Chase. And landing spot is going to come down to where I rank these guys afterwards. But if I want somebody Now, I don't like doing it, but I'm evoking Tyreek Hill when I see Waddle. And Robbie knows this, and I hate it. Kevin hates it when I say it. People say, oh, Tyreek Hill, and I get literally offended. And this guy is like that. So that's what I'm saying. Chase is awesome, but he gains his separation when the ball's in the air as opposed to like off the line, whereas Waddle just gains separation every time he moves his legs. He's going to need to go to a system that uses him properly. Chase is much less system dependent than Jalen Waddle. I 100% agree. But if Waddle goes to the right spot, he's going to be a better player than Jamar Chase. I don't really know if you can go wrong with either one of them. Devonta Smith, I also love. So if you're going to tell me you have Devonta Smith over, Jalen Waddle, or I'm not putting Devonta Smith over Chase, but you get my point. That's fine. I'm not going to fist fight you if you have Jamar Chase over Waddle. I understand I'm an outlier having Waddle as the one as far as in fantasy. But if you look at a lot of draft sites, they have Waddle over Chase as a wide receiver because of what he can do. But again, it's going to come down to where he goes.
Tom, if you're not going to fist fight, I'm not sure what your role is here.
I will fucking fight anyone. I don't care. Let's go.
That's much.
I don't
better.
know what we're fighting about, but I'll
maybe it's the high and tight haircut, but the look on Tom's face, I thought he was ready to have a little combat there.
I have a K-bar upstairs next to a gun, sir.
Yeah, well,
I know that American flag
L-bar
behind you says all that for you. Let's go.
And the angry vet. What the American flag thing too?
I think it's just. I think you just have
it.
angry eyebrows. I think is what it is. Like you
I
just
feel you
have.
should be holding an assault rifle in this arm during it to just have the ultimate.
I literally go to the barber and I have them shape my eyebrows into like villain shapes like this, because I'm like, listen, I can do it on my own, but it's a lot easier if I don't even have to like move my face. Just make me look angry all the time.
The real travesty is that Cody has Rondale Moore so high and probably is going to say he's the next Tyreek Hill. So we'll see how that goes.
Or Tavon Austin, who knows? Because I love Rondale too, but
we'll get to him. We'll get to him all in good time. It sounds like I have Waddle right where I should at 2. I think you guys all make great points, which means I'm correct with him at wide receiver 2. Let's go to Bateman, because I think all of us really the top 2 of you guys brought him up as guys you really like. And I feel like we're almost higher than consensus on Bateman. So just Cody or Christian, hit us off with kind of why you have Bateman so high. Cody, I think you said he was 2 for you.
Correct. I just think he has. I like guys that play with that alpha, like fuck you kind of mentality. Like I know he's not the route runner that Devonta Smith is. He doesn't create the same kind of separation. But I like the fact that we've seen Bateman excel both inside. He's played in the slot. He's played outside. He's played both sides of the field. He has the size, obviously, over Devonta Smith. So that's what I like out of my receivers. If I'm going to be taking one of these guys, first, or if I'm ranking these guys, to me, that's why I have Chase and Bateman 1 and 2, because I just like that alpha mentality, guys that can do he can do it all. Like I said, he might not be the most explosive athlete, he might not be the best route runner, but there's no weakness to his game whatsoever. There are no dents in that profile. And I said at the beginning of the show that like I'm not one for comps, but I do like that Allen Robinson kind of comparison with Bateman that Christian just brought up. So like for me, it's just the mentality that he plays with, and not that Devonta Smith, shies away from contact, or can't go up and get it and have that strength at the catch point. But if I'm going to pick a guy to break tackles and run through corners, I'm picking Bateman over Smith 100 times out of 100. 100.
Devonta Smith is about the most feisty 170-pound wide receiver I've ever seen. Then again, I haven't seen a ton of 170-pound wide receivers, so take that with a grain of salt. Christian, Bateman talk. Let's go.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, the analytics are absolutely off the charts. So as I mentioned with Chase, doing what he did with Jefferson there, I love when younger players dominate with an older NFL player on their team. And not that Tyler Johnson is Justin Jefferson, but Tyler Johnson was one of the best receivers in college football when Rashad Bateman broke out as an 18-year-old. And Bateman was clearly the best player on that team. I mean, let me give you guys some of these analytics on Bateman. I mean, the 88th percentile on Dominator, 43.7% Dominator, 30.4% target share. That's 87th percentile, and then 95th percentile on his breakout age. I mean, this dude is just absolutely shattering the charts on the analytics. And like I said with the Robinson comp, I mean, I love his size, 6'2", 210. Like Cody says, I mean, he's not the biggest, fastest, or strongest guy, but I mean, he does nothing bad. I mean, he's just such a balanced player, and the analytics back up that this is an absolute superstar in the NFL.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I like how you put that. And Cody, I know you've said this before too. When you took him in our February mock, he does everything really well. And I feel like we try and say that about a lot of players, but this is legitimately one player where I feel like he just checks a lot of boxes. But I'm not I'm working on the rookie profile for him, and that's literally one of my strengths because I can't pick one because I'm like, well, he's not the best at this. He's not the best at this, but he is above average to good at literally everything that you want. Yeah. And he doesn't have a history off the field. He doesn't have this safe prospect that also has a ceiling. I feel like when we say safe, we feel like low ceiling, but I don't think that's the case with Bateman. Tom, any thoughts on Bateman before we get to some of these questions?
No, I think you guys chewed it up pretty well. He's awesome as far as his body control is amazing. So I really like him. He does everything well. There's nothing he does wrong. I just saw I have him at 5. I'll have him at 4 as soon as I update these a little bit. He'll be above Rondale, but under the Devonta for me.
Yeah. Let's go to Mr. 24K God's question here. He's asking how far in the actual NFL draft will Jamar Chase and Devonta Smith fall? For Chase, for me, I don't think he gets past 7, and I think that's him falling. I think he probably goes top 5, but if he does fall, I think it's 7 to the Lions. And then Devonta Smith is a little bit more interesting because I had him pegged in a lot of mocks that I liked and I saw at 11 to the Giants. And with the Giants bringing in Kenny Golladay, I'm really unsure of kind of what that looks past 11. But I feel him going in the teens. So anybody else have any thoughts on where these guys fall to?
Yeah, the Eagles just traded back to 12, as we all know, and I don't really know how he would survive past that number.
You talking about Kadarius Toney, Tom?
Lobster Hands McGee?
He's definitely an Eagle. You know that, right?
Yeah, because he sucks ass.
Yeah, he does.
And he's got no hands, and he'll drop shit more than Aguilar. So
well, you need somebody
throw the
to fill
babies
that
out the
role.
window. Aguilar's going to drop them. It's fine.
Are we talking about the $13 million per year man over here?
Amazing contract, by the way. Good for Ags. I was applauding him and his agent for going in on that. He's like, yo, Bill's drunk. Let's get this shit done, son. But yeah, I don't know how Devonta or if Waddle falls. He probably won't. I think at 6 and 7, you're going to see 2 wide receivers go off the board. So I think that the third receiver, which is probably going to be Devonta, I don't see how they get past 12.
Yeah, I was just gonna say top 12, top 15. I don't think they fall that far. Jump to this one quick because Caliplin, we have one of the questions you asked earlier is definitely going to be a debate that we will have. Wide receiver needy team, chance to pick between Amon-Ra and Terrace Marshall. I'll just go real quick. If you are needy, if you need someone that is just going to step in that you can plug and play and you kind of just need the floor. For me, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, hands down. I think he is one of the safest prospects in the entire draft. If you need, if you're okay with a little more boom bust and some more variance and, you want to go higher upside, it would be Marshall. Christian, I know you're a Marshall guy, so that's who you're going to go with. But Robby and Tom, I don't know where you fall on these two. And then 24K, I did a profile on Amon-Ra, and Christian did one on Terrace Marshall, so you can see our thoughts on those two. But I'll let Tom and Robby go here, and I'm going to go find some of these other questions.
All right, literally everything you just said about Amon-Ra, I'm going to say about Terrace Marshall, and just leave it at that. So yeah.
You think Terrace Marshall's the safest one?
Yeah, I hate him on Raw. Like, I think his mom was a bad cook. Straight up. I hate him.
I will say this about St. Brown. I think he is a very good slot wide receiver at the NFL level. I don't think he's going to break the mold. I don't think he's going to be your wide receiver one. I think, and that's okay, right? Like, it's okay to have this guy that's just going to be there for you. He's going to get 60 receptions, maybe 750 yards, 6 or 7 touchdowns, probably be within your top 36 wide receivers. Occasionally jumps up into wide receiver 2. You know, I see him as maybe safer, but I definitely don't see a huge ceiling with St. Brown. But I do really like the player. I liked his tape. I just don't see greatness there. So I might go Terrace Marshall if I'm being a little risky. But Tom, I think we can probably log off here because this is a perfect segue into kind of the Terrace Marshall debate that I know Christian and Cody knew was coming. And they can also throw in St. Brown in this as well. But real quick to just set the stage, Terrace Marshall is wide receiver 5 for Christian. He is wide receiver 9 for Cody. So, Christian, I will let you go wax poetic on Terrace Marshall and why he is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, if you want to really go in detail, I've got a profile out on Marshall where I cover most of this. But, I mean, this guy was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school. I mean, number 3 receiver in the country. So, I mean, insane prospect pedigree. Goes to the SEC, plays at LSU, puts up a 46.5% dominator rating, breaks out at age 19. He's 6'3", 200. His frame can handle 215 easy. He scored 23 touchdowns in 19 games in the SEC. And I think he's going to have late first round draft capital in the NFL. So I personally don't see what there's not to like. I mean, he's got the frame, he's got the production in the SEC. He has pedigree as a recruit in college. And as far as draft capital, there's no way he gets past the early second. You know, so I just don't really see any negatives on Terrace Marshall. I mean, at worst, he's going to be an absolute red zone monster bringing in touchdowns. You know, so, I mean, I know what Cody's going to say. He plays a little lazy, takes a couple plays off, but, you know, a lot of people do that. This guy's frame and pedigree just can't be taught, and I think he's an absolute freak, and I don't know why he's getting faded so much. Like I said, the analytics are there, and he did what he did in the SEC. So I really think he's being underrated, and I really don't see a reason why.
So,
Cody, hold on. Before Cody jump in, I don't know logic. I took a class sophomore year, and I feel like straw man, is that the straw man argument where you make Cody's argument for him, then you dismantle it? Because I like the move, Christian. I really like the move there. Tom, what do you got?
Real quick, you said, you know, he takes plays off and etc. So did Jamar Chase. And guess what else? There are wide receiver coaches that tell them, okay, don't expend all of your energy. So if you see like a thread where Jamar Chase is just, oh, look how lazy he is. He's not really running a route. It's probably because guess what? He knows the ball's not going anywhere near him, and he's still got a safety over top and a corner who's pressing him right there, and he's taking 2 players away. So the lazy thing, I don't necessarily buy, especially in that offense, because we've seen that a lot. Joe Brady teaches his wide receivers to do that. Now he's not there anymore, but maybe they kept that going there. They say, don't use all of your energy every single play. You're still taking up a man. I don't know. Just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's not a concern. That's just what I hear as being the knack on him.
Yeah, I saw like an entire thread about Chase being lazy, and I was just like, do you know what you're looking at? Do you know what system this is? Look at wide receivers that do this on that offense. It's taught. Joe Brady said it was taught. So that lazy thing with Marshall, just throw it out the damn window.
I got nothing. That's it. No, so at 9, that might be a little low to have him at 9.
It's a little low.
I just feel like some of the guys that I have him above him are safer. Like he does. If you look at the profile, he does have everything: size, speed. And I get the lazy thing. That's what all college offenses do. And I get it. But maybe it's just the games that I watched. But it seemed like he took more off than what some of the other receivers did. And I think whenever you have that size and athleticism, maybe that's it. Maybe it just bothers me that he's just not going 100 miles an hour when he should be, not just outside of the plays that they tell him to take it off. There was a play against either it was a maroon colored SEC team, so it was either Texas A&M or it was Mississippi State.
The entire SEC West, basically.
it was one of those two teams, and there's a play where he's going down the middle. And if he just would have so it was the ball was going to him. So it's a play he shouldn't have been taking off. And he just kind of, he doesn't go full speed. The ball's just outside of his reach, and he kind of just lazily, puts his hand out for it. And he just gets fucking smacked. Whoever the safety was that was coming down just absolutely destroyed him. And like I said, maybe it was just the games that I need to go back and rewatch them a little bit. But to me, it was just like, it just seemed to me that there were some more of those plays that he was just taking off, and because of his size, athleticism, maybe that's why. Maybe if he were slightly, less athletic and he wasn't, he was only 6'1", then maybe it wouldn't bother me as much. But that was just one of those things that just I couldn't get past. And I think this is also one of the reasons why the analytics only crowd sticks to analytics, because we're all watching the tape and you guys are talking about, hey, he does that, but it's still really good. And I'm like, I don't know, I can't get past it. So I get why that the analytics only people go to that, because we're all watching the same shit. And here I am I'm seeing something completely different from you guys.
And I'll say this as well, kind of on a twist on that.
Up, yeah. If you ever throw air quotes up at somebody, it's immediately an insult too. So I want to let you know, Christian, you're an analytics guy.
Hey, I've watched every snap Terrace Marshall took in his career.
Oh, yeah. Cody, have you, sir?
No.
But I'll say this. Like I said, Terrace Marshall does take more plays off than Jamar Chase.
If he puts it all together, it would not surprise me if he has one of the highest ceilings in this class.
Hear me out here, though. He doesn't always go full hard, as you say. The play that I brought up in my I guess that sounded bad, or at least it did to Tom, and he couldn't hold in his laughs. But that play that I brought up in my video against A&M, where he catches that slant and then turns it upfield for 45 yards. I mean, literally outrunning about 5 or 6 defenders. I've never seen any other plays where he was running that fast. I mean, this dude's a legitimate in the 4.4s if he's, trying full speed. So maybe some of the plays he takes off has even, masked some of the athleticism that he has. Like I said, I'm talking about his frame so much, but I think this guy is a lot faster than we even realize, because we didn't see enough of those 45-plus plays where he really got to showcase how impressive he is with straight line speed as well. So I just think the ceiling is through the roof on this guy. And, guys like St. Brown are guys like Sterling Shepard, maybe Jarvis Landry at best. I don't think there's a wide receiver 1 ceiling there for some of the guys that you have to have ahead of Marshall if he's at 9.
Guys, let's transition a little bit to what I call the slot city discussion. There are a ton of slot wide receivers in this draft. We're talking about Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore, Tylan Wallace, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kadarius Toney. You can toss in Amari Rodgers there for Christian. Tom, I'll go to you first. Of all of these guys, pick one. Maybe it's your favorite. I know not all these guys are in the same tier, right? And I don't want us all just talk about Rondale, who's kind of at the top. But feel free to start there if you so choose. Let's have a little discussion on these players and if they can expand outside just this slot wide receiver. Boom, there's the air quotes. If that typecast.
You're talking about Rondale? I completely just blanked. I'm sorry.
You're good. The Moores, so Rondale, Elijah, Tylan Wallace, St. Brown, Kadarius Toney. Talk about somebody, Amari Rodgers. Talk about somebody that you like out of these slot wide receiver mold.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Rondale, but he's got to be used correctly. So again, he's going to be landing spot dependent. Tylan Wallace, I think, is a really interesting one because I think he was probably going to go in the first round had he not been injured and came out last year. So I think he is probably going to be a really undervalued wide receiver coming out that you're going to be able to get in the mid-second. So if I'm going to put any stock into those wide receivers, I would, I like Rondale a lot, obviously, but Tylen I think is going to be a steal there.
Cody, I know you have thoughts on Rondale. We'll just stick with Rondale. I think he's a little bit separated from the rest of this group. Let's just hit on him first.
Yeah, he's clearly a slot only guy. He needs to go to the right place. Calaplin asked this question back when whenever we were talking about quarterbacks possibly. So I'm glad we got to bring this up now. And then I think Kenny chimed in and said he agreed because of his size and his measurables. Here is my thing with the 5'9" versus 5'7". If you were watching Rondale Moore and you thought to yourself, like, man, he's really good, but I hope he ain't 5'7". Like you weren't thinking that whenever you watched him. The dude tore it up as a freshman. Christian was talking about he likes guys who produce right off the bat at young ages. Rondale Moore fucking destroyed as a true freshman. He's had some injury issues after that. I'm not sure how the community is viewing Rondale Moore now. I've seen a lot of hate, and I've seen a lot of people saying like the 5'7" thing doesn't matter to them. To me, the thing with Rondale Moore was always going to be landing spot. He needed to go to the right place. It was going to use him on jet sweeps and screens and in the middle of the field and get creative with him. So the fact that he was 5'7" instead of 5'9", like if 2 inches changes your thoughts on a prospect. Tom, mute your fucking mic. As soon as I started to say it, I was like, son of a bitch, here we go.
Yeah.
If 2 inches of height changes your thoughts on a prospect, like I don't know what to tell you. If you were like, it's not like we thought he was 6'1" and then he came in at 5'7". Like he was always a smaller guy. It was always going to be landing spot with him. So for me, yes, he has to be schemed. Calaplin, you hit it right on the head, but we should have always known that. It's like double counting whenever Henry Ruggs ran the 4.3 40. We knew he was fast, and then he ran that 4.3 40, and all of a sudden everybody was like, Henry Ruggs, like we knew that. So like that shouldn't change anything for anyone. It's not like Rondale Moore won by high pointing balls and going up and getting it out of the air. So the height shouldn't matter. But whenever we look at this class, like there is something for everybody. As far as the slots go, I think Elijah Moore is super interesting. I think he's going to be someone who really starts to fly up the boards with the 40 that he just ran and the pro day that he had. Like I said, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown, Robby, like you kind of touched on and expanded on that. Like that is what he is, right? He's a slot guy. He's not super athletic, but like that's not necessarily a bad thing. If he can get funneled targets the way that Jarvis Landry and Keenan Allen get funneled targets, he could be a really good PPR asset. And to me, he's super safe. So it all just depends on what you kind of want to go after. If you want to go after somebody who's more athletic and maybe has a little bit of a higher ceiling, then you're going to go Rondale and Elijah. And if you're going to go, if you need to hit, if you want to go safe, I think Amon-Ra is your guy. And Robby, I just want to get your thoughts on this. I was surprised that you had Tylen under the slot receivers. Is that just because of his size? Because he played predominantly on the outside, correct?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was throwing guys together, and I probably just slipped him in that mold. So yeah, he's definitely a guy that I think has the down the field ability. That's definitely kind of his calling card, right? I think his yards per reception is kind of massive, especially if we're going back a year. So yeah, that's a good call, Cody. Because I think we had a quick discussion on Twitter, and I wanted to bring this up, and then I'll shoot it over to Christian. I think there's a difference between double counting and then getting new information. And I think that's the point that I want to make with Rondale Moore is that we knew he was this guy that Tom, would you mute your
Damn it,
mic?
I thought I was muted.
What are you doing, kid? Is this
My
your first
nose is
podcast?
killing me, bro. Sorry.
You can go ahead and mute now. And so here's the difference is that we knew he was Not a guy with a full route tree. He's getting catches near the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage. He's getting jet sweeps. So I knew that. And I knew he had an injury history. And we were still drafting him late first, early second. But now we get to a point where he's 5'7", not 5'9". And I agree. I don't want to be known as like the sizest guy. Does that really matter? But at a certain point, Cody and whoever else maybe has thoughts on this, isn't there a certain height where you're like, maybe that's too small to do a lot of things in the NFL, and maybe he is just a Tavon Austin that I shouldn't acquire in Dynasty because he can't get a large touchdown. He won't have red zone looks. He won't have down the field threat. He won't have a large yards per reception. So at this point now, should I invest a late first or an early second in a player that's not going to be touchdowns? It's not going to have a ton of yards. He has to get a lot of receptions and a lot of scheming just to make him fantasy relevant. I guess that's the question, because we're talking about a 1 percentile height. He's as short as Tavon Austin, as short as Wes Welker. And I think he can have success. This is not me saying he can't, because he's way better athlete than Wes Welker. He's a better, stronger athlete than Tavon Austin. So I think he already kind of beats them a little bit. But eventually, right, if he was 5'5", Trendon Holiday size, isn't that too small? 5'4", like what's our – at some point it matters, right? Anybody can kind of shoot back at that.
So it definitely does. But when you look at Tavon Austin versus Rondale, I mean, Tavon Austin wasn't jumping.
Tavon.
It's Tavon, sir. I don't care what you say. He didn't have a 43-inch vert at all. So he's 5'7" with a 43-inch vert. That's not normal. You know what I mean? His athletic profile is so off the charts where you can't really pigeonhole him to, oh, he's 5'7", he's not going to succeed, because, he's just going to be able to shrug off tacklers. If he goes to again, he's completely scheme dependent. If he goes somewhere with a creative offensive coordinator, then he'll get drafted, early second, mid-second. If not, he could slip a lot, and that size is going to bother people. But there's going to be somebody who's going to jump on him. He's not getting past 205, in my opinion, in most leagues, based on people just loving his tape. If you only watch tape, Rondale's amazing because you don't see the missed games or the size.
Christian, what do you got?
Well, for me, I think people are harping on the wrong things with Rondale. I mean, like Cody said, we knew Rondale was short, and we knew Rondale was going to run 4.3, maybe less, and that's what happened. I covered it in depth in the Rondale Moore profile that I did, but the concern on this guy is the ADOT. I mean, this guy's ADOT is 5.8. It's the third lowest in the NCAA over the past 5 years. Almost 40% of his receptions in college were screen passes. I mean, this guy literally does not have a route tree. And like you say, to your point, I mean, he's 5'7". I know the vertical makes up for it, and but not every play is he going to be jumping full height into the air. So, to Robby's point, the 5'7" is a little bit of a concern on how much he'll actually be involved as a slot receiver. I'm sure there's some NFL teams kind of pivoting on their board and saying, is this guy a running back? Are we just going to have to utilize him in the backfield and get him screens and stuff as much as we can? And I think that's happening right now. And it's not that he's 5'7" for me. It's really that since I've dropped that video, I've been speaking on his ADOT and his lack of route tree and how he really just, if he's not getting a screen pass, he's not creating all week. I'm very close to moving Elijah Moore and Tylan Wallace both ahead of him. So for me, I mean, Rondale is probably going to end up lower down my board. I mean, we'll see with the draft capital, but the more and more I've dug into him and created content on him and spoke on him all week, the more I'm concerned that, I mean, unless a team is going to throw him 8 screens a game, he's not shown an ability to create. And to the positive points, I mean, there's nothing normal about Rondale Moore, like Tom said about his vertical. This dude is an athlete like, we've never seen before. It's absolutely freaky. He does things that shouldn't be able to be done. But there's a lot of big people in the NFL, and, he doesn't do things that normal wide receivers coming into the NFL do. I mean, all he does is catch screen passes. And I don't know many teams in the NFL that are committed to giving a late second, maybe early third round pick now, 8 screens a game. So I'm concerned on how he transitions to the league. And I think people are harping on the wrong things. We know he's short. We know he's fast. We know he jumps high. Let's start talking about the ADOT and how he's going to get the ball.
Okay, real quick, where would you guys feel comfortable taking him in a super flex draft? The earliest you would take him. Let's go around the horn. Cody, you start. One word answer.
109.
So you're still in the first. Okay, Christian.
The earliest I
End
would
of the
take him,
first.
the absolute earliest I would take him would be 203, 15th overall.
Tom.
He's moving down in my rankings, and I haven't updated
One word.
that.
You're especially.
Yeah, you cheated. I would have said end of the first if I would have known that.
Sorry. Well, I'm trying to figure
Too
out
late.
where.
Too late.
Tom, this is a quick exercise.
203. 203.
Boom.
Yep. 202 was mine. So Cody is the highest there, but it looks like he might fall into the early second for some of you who are fans of his game. Anybody else want to hit on some of these guys? I know I kind of miss put Tylen Wall wide receivers you guys want to hit on before we move to a different category of wide receiver.
I know Cody said his name, but Elijah Moore's pro day was beautiful. To me, I think Elijah Moore can be what we want Rondale Moore to be. You know, that slot guy that's just extremely explosive. I mean, he had production in the SEC, you know, the breakout age, the dominator's good. I mean, you know, after seeing what I saw from Elijah Moore today, I'm really going to dive back in and see if I don't truly believe that he's the better Moore in this class. So.
All right, let's move on to more of our bigger wide receivers. I think we have a really good slot. I call it the slot city area. These are kind of your wide receivers, maybe 6 to 10. And then some of these bigger wide receivers have been pushed down the board just a little bit. We're talking about Seth Williams, we're talking about Nico Collins, Sage Surratt, and then the Illinois wide receiver. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Anyone want to take a swing at it?
Yeah, go ahead,
Josh
Tom.
Amatorba.
That is about as good as you're going to get out there. So
Tom,
the
that actually might be the best pronunciation you've had on anything.
Amatorba.
I'll be honest.
He's related to Mario, by the way.
I am not pumped up about this class or this area, I should say, of wide receiver. Is there anybody that stands out that you guys want to stump for a little bit?
I really wish that Seth Williams would have put it all together. I will say that, not necessarily somebody that I want to stump for, but he's someone that, like Christian was talking about, that had the someone he likes that has the high pedigree coming in. That was Seth Williams, had high hopes for him, and then he was just one of those guys who didn't put it all together. He has those flashes that make you say, like, holy shit, like he could do this, but he's just someone who like, and normally this is like my group of guys. Like I typically like the 6'2", 6'3", 215, 220 pound receivers. But there's just not a lot of those guys that have really put it all together that really do for me this year. I mean, there's definitely some guys who are interesting. Josh Ema, I will call him. I think he was originally a USC recruit, and then had some injuries, couldn't get on the field, and then he ended up transferring to Illinois. He was someone who was a pretty highly regarded 4-star recruit. Had a really nice pro day, but I think injury might be the thing that kind of keeps him sliding down some NFL team boards versus anything else. Nico Collins, obviously he came out, had a really nice pro day today or yesterday, whenever Michigan's was, but as fast as he was and as strong as he is, like, he's one of those guys who just didn't create a lot of. I've been trying to figure out a way how to frame this, because like separation is not the same across all receivers, but he didn't create horizontal separation. Like, he can separate when the ball is in the air, but like whenever he's running his route, he's not getting yards of separation whenever he's running them. So he's someone who I think is going to kind of get the Donovan Peoples-Jones treatment, someone who's going to fall to day 3 whenever their athletic profile says that maybe they shouldn't. So if he falls somewhere that has a thin depth chart, like all these guys are guys you should be keeping an eye on. It kind of goes back to what we were saying at the beginning when we talked about quarterback is, do you want to take a shot on a Trask or a Kellen Mond? Like, I don't know, man. Like, Nico Collins sounds a hell of a lot more fun to me than, than Ian Book does. Like, that, I would rather have some of these receivers in this range than some of these quarterbacks.
Christian, who you got?
I mean, I don't really like any of the big guys here. I mean, in the mock we were doing today, I picked Seth Williams, but I'm not in love with him. Kind of like Cody said, I love that size of receiver. I love the prospect pedigree, but I mean, he's the definition to me of just a guy. A good athletic framed guy, but just a guy. One person that I think we just can't go the whole pod without mentioning, because I think he belonged in the last group, was Dyami Brown. He's going in this range, and he's a player that I like a lot. And I think he just got left out of that last group there. But, I like him better than any of these guys we're talking about here. The bigger dudes I don't really like.
Last time I ever make a show sheet for you guys, all you do is criticize.
Well, maybe if you would have been more focused on the show sheet versus your easy Mac, you would have put these players where they should have went.
No,
in your defense, I think he was in the show sheet. I just don't think we talked about him.
I properly did. I think he's in the next section. I properly allocated my time to the show sheet. I did 90% to the nicknames and the intros and 10% to everything else. So I think the balance was correct. I'll quickly just talk about Nico Collins, because he's been a guy that just keeps coming up. And I don't know how many mock drafts you guys follow, but he's continually mocked day 2. And I, for the life of me, I'm not seeing it. But as I've watched, I can get why some teams will fall in love with him. The size, 6'4", 215, contested catch. If you want somebody to go up and get it, he's going to be your guy. Really rough with routes. I feel like he's Denzel Mims, just not with the same hype for this year's class.
Don't you dare mention him in the same breath.
Denzel Mims was extremely raw with his routes, and that's what Nico Collins is. But he can go up and get it. He has a huge catch radius. I just think he needs a little bit of polishing. And if he gets drafted day 2,
polish your face.
He will definitely slide up our picks here in rookie drafts. So who else do we want to talk about? Do we want to move on to our final little discussion piece here of speed wide receivers?
Yeah, so keep in mind the Eagles have 3 day 2 picks. So they will fuck up and take Nico on day 2. So that's where it's coming from.
Got to make up for that J-Job pick.
Motherfucker.
He's gone. Perfect. All right. This is a perfect time to segue, because we can properly segue here. We're going to go to the speed city, the speed wide receivers in this class. We're talking Dyami Brown, Dwayne Eskridge, Tamarion Terry, Tutu Atwell, Jalen Darden, and Anthony Schwartz. Do I have another one? No, that's it. Christian, do you want to hit on any of these guys? I think you kind of hit on Dyami Brown. Anybody else?
I'll let Cody hit on him, because I know he's got the most info on him from doing the piece that he did on him. But Dyami Brown's the guy that I like out of this group. But I think Cody would do a better job going over him.
Yeah, I think Dyami Brown is someone who at UNC, I think he can do more than what he, like, if you just look at if you just box score scout and you see the, 20 yards per catch in back-to-back seasons and his ADOT, versus someone like Rondell Moore, who we were touching on, I think he can do more. I think that's just what he did best. And they had that guy to work the short to intermediate ranges of the field with Daz Newsome. So they were just like, you know what, this is really working. Keep sending him deep. I think he can work inside. He can work outside. I think he has shown the athletic traits and some of the route running to be able to expand upon just running, post and nines was basically all he did at UNC. So he is absolutely somebody who is kind of I don't necessarily even know if he's being slept on. He's just getting lost in the shuffle because this class is just full of, like, this is just a really, really strong wide receiver class. And, like I said, whatever your flavor is, whether you like the alphas, the slot guys, the speed guys, the size guys, like, this class has everything. So I kind of think he's just kind of being lost in the shuffle in that regard. Christian, was there anybody else that you want to touch on?
Not in this group. I will say I was looking at some mock drafts earlier this week, and I saw Tutu Atwell mocked to the Saints at the end of the first round, which I just think is insane. But always with these speed guys, we have to watch for the crazy NFL team to just spend too much capital on one of these guys because of a 40 time. So, we'll see if any of that happens, but I'm not crazy about any of the other guys in this group.
Tom, any thoughts on this group?
No, I'm with him with Diami. I'd take a shot on Terry. Just that size, speed, 210 pounds. He's what, 6'3", 6'4"? I think he's 6'4", and he's going to wind up, or he did run a 4.5. So that speed and size is going to just bump him up. And yes, the Eagles are trash. I'm well aware. If you would like to come on a podcast and talk about why the Eagles are trash, I will destroy you and tell them why they're even worse than you thought.
It's kind of nice for once, because as a Cowboys fan, normally these type of comments are just always thrown to Cowboys fans. It's kind of nice to get a break. I do appreciate it. So, Tom,
I'm the only participant who has not seen my team win the Super Bowl. So you guys have no leg to stand on with your complaints here.
Fair enough.
I will say Jalen Darden, I was expecting him to run a quicker 40 than what he did. I think he ran a 4.46, so you adjust that. Kind of puts him at the high 4.4, low 4.5 range. But if you watch his tape, he is much faster than what he ran. And he's one of these guys, again, that depending on what you're looking for in like the fourth round of your rookie drafts, he's absolutely somebody that you should be taking a shot on. And I think I saw that like all but like 3 or 4 NFL teams had representation at the North Texas Pro Day. So, and unless I'm just blissfully unaware of anybody else, like I think the majority, like maybe there's like a lineman or a safety or something, but the majority of them were there to see Jalen Darden. I think he made up for his bad, or his, not even necessarily that a mid 4.4 is bad, but he's one of these guys who Elijah Moore, Rondell Moore, Tutu Atwell, just smaller guys. You were expecting him to run a faster 40. He kind of made up for that with his, I think he had a really solid 3-cone and a short shuttle. So
yeah, I knew when I opened my mouth that was a dangerous thing. So appreciate the love there.
Caliplin, who's your team? Just out of curiosity, but yeah, Darden's another guy. I have not yet watched Schwartz. So I'm curious if any of you guys have seen him yet, but I am also with Tom that Tamorrion Terry is someone that we absolutely need to be paying attention to as well. Again, as someone who's probably going to fall to the late 3rd, early 4th of your rookie drafts, he is someone that you absolutely have to get a couple, take at least one shot on Tamorrion Terry, because if he can be more consistent, because he shows those like they're not just flashes, they're like groups of flashes, but then they're separated by just like straight up drops and just boneheaded plays. But so if he's someone who can be more consistent in his play, Tamorrion Terry could be one of those guys who, you draft in the mid to late 3rd of your rookie draft, and you're just, if like as if you got Amazon in the, the early 2000s, you're just printing off money with Tamorrion Terry.
Yeah, and let's also keep in mind with Tamorrion Terry, he had to deal with Willie Taggart, who was absolute trash as a coach, and then he left the team. So he clearly had some issues going on with the coaching. I don't know if it was his personality, whatever, which is why he left. He said he just wanted to go train for the NFL draft, but it was odd how he did it. So that's going to be interesting to see where he goes, how far he falls, because I don't know. His talent is off the charts. Like, he could be a first-round talent had he put more tape together. But there's something going on there, so just be aware. But again, if you're talking 3rd or 4th round picks, it's lottery tickets at that point. So take a shot on them.
All right, gents, let's move over to the tight end class, and I think it's one to get a little bit excited about. It's interesting with all these positions. We have a QB1 consensus, a running back 1 consensus, mostly outside of Tom, wide receiver 1 consensus, and again, we have a tight end 1 consensus in Kyle Pitts. I think the next argument comes to who is that tight end 2. Now, all of us have the same guy, but I'm curious if anyone can make the case for the third guy here. Pat Freiermuth is the tight end 2 that we all have, and then it's Brevin Jordan. I think it's a little bit closer than most people think. Let's Christian, go to you first. Do you have any thoughts on how close it is between these two, and do you see Brevin Jordan maybe rising above him if the landing spot is correct?
I do. For me, if the landing spot is correct, he will move ahead of Freiermuth for me. For me, it's close as is. So I was trying to look through this and really justify why I had Freiermuth ahead of Jordan, and I was struggling to do it the more I dug in. I honestly considered, texting you before we got on here today to change mine to Jordan. I really like when the guys perform young and when the breakout age. This guy's breakout age was 18.1, and he was in the 90th percentile with his college dominator. So very rarely does somebody break out at 18 and have a dominator over 30 and are not a stud in the league. I mean, this guy hits both of them. I mean, he had a very consistent career, 32 catches, 35 catches, 38 catches. So just very consistent through his college career. And, like I said, the analytic numbers are crazy. He doesn't have the size that Freiermuth has, but, for me in the right spot, I mean, he checks the boxes that I need to, use decent capital on him. So I'm very willing to move Jordan ahead of Freiermuth unless somebody has a case to really talk me out of it, but I've come along on Jordan quite a bit today from digging into him more.
Cody.
I do not have a strong argument, but I think if I could see a situation, a scenario where Pat Freiermuth, because of his ability as a blocker, he's definitely nowhere near the athlete that Brevin Jordan is, but he is more than athletic enough. He's not a bad athlete by any means, but Brevin Jordan is a damn good athlete at that. Like if you throw on the Brevin Jordan tape and you if someone just handed it to you and was like, here, just watch number 9 for Miami, you wouldn't know if he was a receiver or a tight end. Like he is that good as an athlete. But if as of right now, I think it makes more sense to have some pre-draft to have somebody like Freiermuth ahead of him because he can do it all. He's a really good blocker. Like I said, he's good enough as an athlete. So I personally cannot talk Christian out of doing that. I don't know if Tom or Robby, if either of you can.
So Freiermuth's obviously, in my opinion, going to be on the field more for at least the first 2 years. That's going to be Brevin Jordan's issue, is getting on the field because he's not really developed as a blocker. So if he goes somewhere that's going to let him basically play as a flanker, it's a little bit different. But pre-draft, I can't give the nod to Brevin whatsoever. And what Cody said was Freiermuth's a good enough athlete. He's a really good athlete for a player at his size, and he's physical. He's going to get touchdowns. I like him a lot. So I like Freiermuth more than most, I think, where I would take him early second round, and Brevin, I think, is later in the second.
Yeah, I think that's probably what keeps Freiermuth above Brevin Jordan for me at tight end 2. We know tight ends take a little bit to develop. We have to give them a year or two. We saw that with Mike Gesicki. We saw that with Mark Andrews. It normally takes a year, and that's where I think it's a little bit closer, where Brevin Jordan can also take that jump, but he's going to be behind the 8 ball, I think, a little bit when you talk about the snaps. Tom, I like that point. Is there anybody else in this tight end group? I know we have CJ jumping into our mentions here, hyping up some Hunter Long. Make sure you guys check out his rookie profile video on Hunter Long, the BC native that he is. Anybody you guys want to mention from this tight end group outside the top 3?
I think Hunter Long's interesting as one of those guys who could just have a steady NFL career. He's average and does everything okay. He's a good enough blocker, good enough athlete, but doesn't have that thing that's going to separate him from the rest of the pack. I think Long is CJ's tight end 3, if I'm not mistaken. I think he has him above Brevin, maybe.
I think that's correct. Yes.
I mean that's just straight homerism. He's wrong. He's allowed to have that opinion, but it's. I do think I do think if you are all right, we have finally this. All right, Calaplin, this is Kev's burner. This is one Kev, you need to get your son off of YouTube. I don't know what is going on. The fact that he just dropped Dan Arnold.
I think it's a stab at Kev. If I remember correctly, he was in the free agency reaction when we had to do, and we talked about Dan Arnold going to Carolina. So. Yeah, I think he's taking a stab at Kev.
He's also you gotta pay attention to the dots. I think he just dropped 6. So that's
and let's put some respect. This is Dan Arnold, new Panthers tight end 1.
Yeah, who just went from the tight end 1 with Kyler Murray, like, he's gonna get better, he's gonna have a better spot in Carolina.
I'll take a loss on here. I love Ian Thomas. I was wrong.
Kyle Pitts to the Panthers at a book it.
Book it. Dano, what's up, bud? I can't wait for that mock we do.
There really isn't anyone else, right?
I mean, you hear names, and I'll be honest, I haven't dug into these names yet, so I don't want to act as if I know them. But Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame has been a guy. Doesn't have a lot of production, but has that size speed that you want from a tight end. And I think people kind of like him a little bit better than Hunter Long, just because Hunter Long maybe profiles more as that Kyle Rudolph. He can do it all. He's going to be there for you every snap, but maybe doesn't profile as a more fantasy producing tight end. And then Kenny Yeboah from Ole Miss is another name I've seen thrown out there. Those are 2 that I need to dive into, have not yet gotten to them. But yeah, does anyone have thoughts on Kev's guy here? He is taking our thoughts off the air.
He's not actually good at football, is my thoughts. And like I saw people were talking about like, oh man, he could be like a DK Metcalf. If you saw Simi with his shirt off, he is nowhere near the Greek chiseled god that DK Metcalf is, even though they're similar like size, weight, kind of like speed guys. I know he ran the fast 40. I know he had himself a nice pro day. But if you watch the tape, and I know Kev is a numbers guy, and I'm going to go hard at him because he's not here to defend himself. But I know Kev is always talking about how like, oh, I can go look at a profile and I know who this guy is. You do not throw in the tape of Simi Fehako, and you are not going to like what you see. Like the dude, like he doesn't separate. He is for the size and speed that he has. He should be separating, and he just doesn't. He doesn't do it. He played at Stanford. He doesn't have a lot of competition. His dominator rating isn't great. He doesn't have the production. So I am not on. The only time that I will say Simi is whenever I am singing Nelly lyrics. So, but also Kev, thanks for the $5 super chat. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Have you guys seen him mocked earlier than day 3? Like, is this a guy that's going to be going to have some draft capital? Have you guys seen him mocked anywhere other than day 3?
Pretty sure Kevin just mocked him to Kevin's face.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else.
Yeah, I think he's a bigger guy.
That was a dad joke. Sorry, God.
I think he's a bigger guy that you can take a stab on late. We've seen some of these guys that are able to, make some pops here and there, but I don't know. It just is Auden Tate an odd name to bring up when you hear this guy? Like, because Auden Tate just is kind of what comes to my head when I think of him.
That's not.
I don't think Tate had the athletic measurables though, right? Like Tate.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. That's a good call.
No, but Auden Tate at least had production, so he has that over Simi Cocoa Puff. Listen to me now.
Guys, anybody else? Christian, you've been quiet for a while. Anybody else that we need to hit on? Tight ends, otherwise, anybody we need to hit on from your standpoint?
Not at tight end. Like I said, after those 3, I mean, Hunter Long's, we'll see what happens there. But outside of those, I mean, nothing really going there. You teased him earlier, but we didn't really talk about him. I like Amari Rodgers a lot as a guy that's going to play in the league for a little while. When you're just throwing darts at those, fast or big guys we were talking about there, Amari Rodgers is a guy I think is going to get some mid-round draft capitals, and just really, perform well for whatever team he gets on. We saw during the Clemson Pro Day, they put him in the backfield and, he looked pretty good in running back drills. So I think a team's going to pick him up and kind of use him as a Swiss Army knife. So if you don't want to take one of those boomer bust dart throws on some of those guys we talked about, Amari Rodgers will be a good, safer bet in that range.
Tom, you have anybody?
No.
Robby.
Cody, take us home. Galpin, take us home. That is a great comment to end on.
That's it. That's
Ends
it.
broadcast.
Do we pay him the $5 Kev just gave us?
Yeah, Kev, send. You need to hit up Calaplin, PayPal him. Actually, I'll throw in 5 too. We're gonna send $10 to Calaplin just for roasting you and being sarcastic earlier with the Dan Arnold. But yeah, we appreciate all you guys rocking with us. If you are still here and you're not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I know it's been a little bit of a marathon kind of live show. We are coming on 2 hours now. Hit us with a like. Any questions you guys have, please drop your questions. We'll have a lot more Dynasty talk coming on. If you are interested in things like that, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Robby and Tom hold it down on the Dynasty side. Christian has been pumping out the profiles. He's been crushing them as a newcomer to the scene. So we appreciate all the work that Christian's been doing. Go check out his stuff. Amari Rodgers, Rondale Moore, Terrace Marshall, he's done. We are going to be doing a pro day recap, I think, after this. So we will. I know the pro without a combine, all the pro day stuff has kind of been all over the place. So we're definitely going to have all the content that your heart's desire. It was good seeing some familiar faces, Ashton, Walito, and then seeing some new faces. Caliplin's been coming through strong for us. Rick Y hitting us with that nice little that nice comment earlier. Matt coming in. So we appreciate all of you guys coming in and holding it down for us on the YouTube channel. So I think it's going to wrap it up. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at @FF_authority. You can hit us on the gram where Kevin is stalking these guys without their shirts on. And then you can follow Christian at Evil Empire FF. You can find Tom at Dynasty Infidel. You can find Robby at NFL Robby. And you don't need to follow me. So we'll talk to you all you guys soon. Goodbye.